Hey, it's me, Ashley, local real estate agent, Everett Market. Look, I got the market update coming at you. It's going to be good. Okay, really interesting. We're going to see how things are kind of shaping up for the fall winter season. Stay tuned. Look, I'm so excited to get to the data. Here we go. Okay, so I like to start with Everett as a whole, and median prices are down from last month, right? They're down from last month, but they are up from 1 year ago. So you can see that 1 year ago, September, we were at median sales price of $495, and now we're at $529, right? New listings are down also from last year and last month, which is interesting, right? And I think, people are kind of wondering like, well, what's the market doing? And, it's sort of suggesting a bit of a slowdown, right? But, kind of, here's the thing. It is a little bit of a slowdown, but the thing is that you have to remember, like, look at the velocity down there. Days on market till a sale. That's 6 days, right? Inventory is still really low. We'll see the numbers when we get into North Everett. Inventory is still like way low. It's still a seller's market. Inventory is still limited, and there's still competition out there for buyers. Totally. All right. So let's get specific. We're going to start looking at 98201. We appear to be on track to sell a similar number of homes as we did last year. It's going to probably be around that 400 number. And it's really interesting to kind of see like how this plays out at the end of the year, because one thing that we didn't have last year that we have this year is we do have rising rates, right? We have rising rates and higher home prices. Okay. So what that means is rates go up, home prices go up. There's two components to a home payment, right? To a mortgage payment. And that really affects affordability, right? Like as rates go up, it means that people that were once qualified for a certain amount, whatever, like let's say they were qualified for 450, they might not be qualified for that 450 anymore. They might not be qualified for that 450 anymore. So we'll see how things kind of pan out. I think we'll hit the 400 number. I mean, we might kind of have more numbers that are kind of more like the 2019 numbers, like, just over 400. All right. So now let's look at last year compared to this year in North Everett. And man, look at that. So we had more new listings last year than this year than last year. And, that's a big contrast compared to Everett as a whole. The pending and sold, though, are down. The pending and sold are down. And I think that was kind of expected. Like, just to remind everybody, we had 2020, we had the kind of like that springtime slowdown when everything kind of shut down for a few weeks and people were like, we don't know what we're doing, what's going on. And we had predicted that much of the selling season would be pushed into the fall. And I think we'll see that in graphs to come when we kind of compare what's happening. But, here's the thing that's interesting. It's sort of like you've got like almost like a bit of a delay in the market, right? Because looking at homes for sale, here, right here, you can see there's more homes on the market than there were last year that are available, which is just an interesting thing to kind of note. It sort of means, what does it mean? Does it mean like more sellers are kind of like, oh man, I better hurry up and get my house on the market because, I don't want to miss this window of getting the highest price possible? Does it mean that the market is slowing down, right? I mean, we're kind of going into this fall seasonal slowdown, like the normal pattern that we have, right? And I mentioned rising rates. Maybe that's part and parcel. Maybe the other piece of it is that, we just have these rising rates. We've got kids going back to school. Everything's kind of opened up with COVID. So maybe people are just not, they just weren't looking at houses. They were looking at houses. So maybe that's what we're seeing. I mean, but you can see, look at month supply. Month supply is still very, very low. I mean, we're over here, month supply, it's like 0.8. I mean, that's very, very low, right? Because we all remember that a balanced market is 6 months. That number should be like a 6, 5, 6, 7 for a balanced market. So still very strong seller's market. This is also interesting. Okay. This is another thing. So median prices are flat, again, suggesting a slowdown, and or, that we're returning to our normal seasonal pattern where we get a little bit of a slowdown in the fall time, and the slowdown lasts until, so this is September. So it would be like September, October, November, December, January, maybe February, and then things will kind of start picking up in March and April. All right, median sales prices. All right, look, I predicted a long time ago that we'd be above 450. I mean, we are clearly above 450. And we did have, right, like a seasonal peak happen in May there when we hit the 550 mark. And, this here, you'll be able to see on the next slide, this is just, I think we're moving into our normal pattern. You can see here, the first green circle where you have, this is 2019, like if we just sort of treat 2020 as an anomaly, if we look at 2019, you can kind of see, we kind of have like a little bit of a peak in home sale prices, kind of like May, June, like in there. And we had that this year as well. And then as we go into the fall and as school starts and all that stuff, you can see that prices taper off, right? And I think that's our more normal pattern, right? Whereas, look at, if you look at last year around this time, prices kind of stayed around the same, right? Like they kind of hovered around the same level because we had a lot of demand that got kind of pulled over from earlier in the year, right? So, yeah, I mean, I think this is very typical. This is like our more normal market, more normal, starting to kind of normalize and stabilize into a normal pattern. All right, here we go. We're still above our 450 mark. I think I suspect that we're going to probably hold around this price until the end of the year. I mean, it's possible that we drop down a little bit lower if we have more like kind of like lower price inventory come on. And those sales happen, but my guess is that we're going to kind of hold, somewhere close to that 450 mark for the rest of the year. I mean, it's possible. I mean, like, look at 2020. I mean, we did kind of drop back down almost to like the 400s, but I just don't see that happening now, right? Because it's kind of like, when we get to the price of a 3-bed, 2-bath house, I mean, you'll see that like, the prices aren't really going down for those, right? They may have like kind of like a seasonal or an annual decline, right? Which is expected, but, I don't think it's going to be anything drastic. It doesn't mean, I mean, I guess, the thing to think about is what a rate's going to do. All right. I love this graph because it's great for gauging two things: how much over asking price you may pay or receive if you're a seller, and how much competition there is in the market. All right. How much competition is there in the market? So, a few things to note. We are down from our annual high of 10.4%, right? 10.4% to 4.8% above asking price. We're a little slower, right? So because it's kind of with this little slowdown, you may pay a little less because there are fewer people competing for the same houses, right? So what do I mean by that? Do I mean that the median house price is going to be lower than before? I mean, not if you kind of look at like, what does a 3-bed, 2-bath cost? Like the median price of a 3-bed, 2-bath is not going to change much. The thing that's going to change is that because there's not as many people competing, the price of that property is not going to be driven up as high as it would be if you were shopping in the higher time, in the busy season, right? But with that comes, maybe less options, right? Less options right now. So you kind of have to just decide what you want to do. And what I personally think is if you're looking to buy a property, you should be in the market at all times until you find that property, because you just never know. So, I think in closing on this graph, I mean, overall, the graph looks a lot like our normal seasonal pattern is re-emerging, right? Like we kind of got past 2020 where, everything kind of stayed, I mean, you can see that. You can look at this graph and you can see basically from January to December, the price over asking was like, right below 5%, right? Like it's pretty flat actually. And then you see this huge spike in 2021. And, why is that? Right. I think it had to do a lot with what interest rates were doing. I think people were getting the message. And here we are coming into the end of the year and rates are creeping up. So, I think we're normalizing more. All right. I love to track this. And again, I track this because it's like I get asked for this property all the time. It's the most commonly asked for property. I get on the phone with somebody. I'm like, hey, what are you looking for? They want a 3-bed, 2-bath, single family house, detached, right? These are not like our little townhouses or condos. All right. So, they're very limited, right? Like, think about how many of them we have available per year. There's not many of them. We're in this historic area, and I mean, gosh, I hate to say it, but I think back in the day, man, I think they really hated bathrooms. They didn't put very many of them in houses. And so, to get that second bathroom, that second bathroom is pretty valuable. So look, median prices are still climbing up. Last month, they're up almost 8% from 551 to 595,000. And this is the highest it's been all year. I mean, you can see it. It's the red line here. You can see the graph. It's just a like constant upward trend, right? And inventory just kind of fluctuates. It's, how many are available. So how many were available in September? Looks like there are about 7 of them available. All right. There's 7 of them available. So, I don't, unfortunately for those folks that are kind of like looking for this house and they want it to be like, 350 or something. I mean, gosh, I just don't know how likely that is. I think you're going to spend good money to get that second bathroom. Good money to get that second bathroom. So that's the data. So you saw the data. What do you guys think? Okay. I mean, gosh, I think in the next few months, we're likely going to see less competition for buyers and, maybe even less options for buyers, right? Because it seems like we're kind of pulling back on listings, prices, and, they're not falling, relatively, right? They're kind of like falling relative to where we've been this year, right? But they're still up there. So what does that mean? That means that if you're a seller, you need to price your home well, right? There's going to be less competition on the market as far as like inventory, right? But then there's also on the other side that like less buyers, right? Unless the buyers get the message that I'm putting down in this video, which is this might be the time to find your home. This might be the time to find your home. Like right now, like get out there, take a look at houses. There's less competition. There's less bidding wars, right? So greater chance that your offer gets accepted, right? Instead of, I mean, look, it would be great, right? Like, we've just all been in lockdown for, whatever, 2 years almost, okay? But it would be great to find your next home and not have to have like as many people at the table competing, driving the price up as much, right? The other thing that's important to know is that Zillow has kind of pulled back on what they think is a 12-month projection as far as appreciation, right? Like they're kind of thinking more like 7% now for next year, which is interesting, right? Last year was like, man, crazy. But it seems like this year it's going to slow down in the next 12 months. So, if you're looking to sell your house, get it on the market, price it really well. If you're looking to buy a house, get out there and make your offers. Look, I'm excited to help. If you have any questions for me, please reach out. And I will see you guys again next month. Take care.